New autopsy details in the Bryan Kohberger case. The unmistakable evidence of a sadistic sadist.
The new autopsy report changes everything, revealing a level of brutality no one expected.
We're going to talk with an expert, a former NYPD homicide detective who's covered this case from day one.
When someone is murdered with a knife, right away that is very up close and personal and implies rage. And in the way that he killed these 4 college students was overkill. The fact that he turned his phone off en route to the location, that speaks volumes. The number one identifier on this planet was on the button of the knife sheath, and that was his DNA.
He made the one mistake of his sheath, and that was he went back to go to the house.
I think he knew he couldn't find the sheath, obviously, and I think that's why he called his mom.
He had reconned that place 23 times. But really the most important thing I would want to know is, what'd you do with the knife?
New autopsy details in the Bryan Kohberger case point to something far darker than anyone imagined. Unmistakable evidence of a psychosexual sadist. And days earlier this week, I stood right on the sidewalk at the exact spot where Luigi Mangione gunned down a Fortune 500 CEO. It's still chilling when you're there. We're talking about all of that today with the best guy to talk about it in New York. Welcome, everybody. I'm Tom Zenner. This is Tom Zenner Scandal. I am the co-host of One Degree of Scandalous with the one and only Kato, K-Train, Kaelin.
Boy, I got the great build up there.
Man.
Psycho and all that. That was my old name on Twitter. No, I'm kidding.
And we have the perfect guest to talk about this, too.
I love
We've had him on before, and when you want to get right to the meat of it, somebody that has covered crimes like this in New York City for NYPD, I'm pumped. I'm ready to bring him in. You cool? You ready to get after this?
You know what? It's a fan favorite.
Yep.
So you got to love that.
And the cool thing, Kato, is both these stories have new developments, right? So we're going to get into it today. All right, let's bring him in. Bill Cannon. Man, he's been on our show once before. Everybody loved him, and he's the host of a very, very popular podcast as well. Former NYPD detective. He's instructed detectives. Great career. We'll get into all of those details, but he's joining us today. And Bill, welcome back. And let me get it right to the first question I want to ask you here, which is kind of what I teased. And you've been one of the guys that kind of thought this might be something a lot darker, not just a rage killing, right? And you've had a couple expert guests that have backed that up. But what led you to believe that Kohberger was more of a sexual, sadistic murder instead of something maybe that we heard in Idaho in the courtroom or something like that? Because that's pretty deep and heavy.
Well, one of the things is that when someone is murdered with a knife, right away that is very up close and personal. And implies up close and personal, but also rage. And in the way that he killed these 4 college students was overkill. There was between the 4 students, there was over 100 stab wounds, which lets us know that some of the stab wounds were post-mortem. So he was still stabbing after they were dead. It's almost like they recently on Banfield on News Nation, she had the sister of Kaelin Gonsalves on the show. And she had indicated that she was told that he was playing around after she was dead and sticking the knife. I mean, this is like horrible details. It's almost like we shouldn't know this stuff. But I think it's important to know it to see what type of individual this is. And I think the prosecutor, Brian Thompson, and the investigators on this case took great pains to say, oh, this was not a sexual murder, that's amateur shit 101. Are you kidding me? How do you say that? And I did 10 years in Manhattan North Homicide. I did 27 years on the NYPD. I'm a detective sergeant, by the way, not a detective. And I ran investigations. And to say there was no sexual motive to this is real amateur shit. Like, have you ever investigated something like this? He goes into a house where there's 3 women and 1 man. And I think he specifically was targeting one of them. And I didn't just make this up myself. I had Dr. Joni Johnson on, a forensic psychologist from the West Coast. And I had Jim Clementi on, a retired FBI agent who's one of the best profilers the FBI ever had. and he writes for the TV show Criminal Minds. And he was like, this is absolutely a psychosexual, sadistic murderer.
Textbook. It's textbook. It's true. I mean, if you want to go to Central Casting and find the case, this is it. And it's almost appalling, don't you think, Kato? It's almost insulting to real law enforcement and real prosecutors that, that's the elephant in the room, and it's so obvious.
And he also he probably would have 2 to 4 minutes in there. So, I mean, he had to do everything pretty quickly. And because I researched a lot of the Kohberger case, and my opinion's always been that I don't know if he targeted something he couldn't have. I think at one point he was probably rejected, and his type. This is just me. I'm not being the profile like Jim Clementine, but he probably profiled blonde. He was overweight at one point. He's probably been rejected, and he had this figure in his head that this is what I want to kill. It's something I can't have. I don't think he's ever came in contact with these people before, but I think he knew where they lived. He circled the house so many times, and then he committed his heinous crime.
Well, I think that the Idaho authorities took great pains to cover up certain things. And I don't know this as a fact, but look, the University of Idaho is that town of Moscow, Idaho. Probably 80% of the population works at the University of Idaho. So this house was a symbol of something horrific that happened there. And would you send your kids to a school where 4 students were murdered in a horrific way off campus? So they couldn't knock that house down quick enough.
Yeah.
And from a law enforcement perspective, that was a huge mistake. If that would have went to trial, they wanted to have that house to walk the jury through. But they knocked it down before there was, it turned out there was no trial. But if there was one, that would have been a powerful piece of evidence.
Bill, how does that work? Is the town, is there a vote that says we tear it down? Who decides that? The mayor? The governor of Idaho? Who says we're tearing down this eyesore?
The owner of that house knew that he could never, ever sell that house. So what does he do? He donates it to the school to get, I guess, a tax write-off. And then the school decides, let's knock this thing down.
Oh, without a doubt.
We're not getting any new students because this is a symbol of the horrific act that occurred here.
Right, but they had to do all the investigating first before they could actually knock it down, right? They had to get all the clues, take the pictures, videos,
well, sure,
whatever.
They did that right away.
Right, but they have to have they've got to be an okay to rip the house down at some point with the saying, okay, we found all the clues, any DNA, we found it, now you can knock it down.
Right. Well, the district attorney would make that decision after the home was cleared. It was donated to the university. The DA would, they took all these digital and these laser films and everything like that. So they had the evidence, but it's not the same thing. It's like Tom when he said he walked on 54th Street next to the Hilton where Brian Thompson was murdered we believe by Luigi Mangione. He probably got the chills just standing there, right?
I definitely did, man. You could just feel it because you've seen it. You know what happened there, and you could just see that side entrance. You can imagine Mangione with this 3D gun that he, created, and it just happened. And then you could see, I mean, this is the heart of the upper, west side, right? Or it's near it. It's Midtown. It's a very, very busy area. And then you could I also took a look around, and you just know there's cameras everywhere, and he's not going to get away with this. And it's just a matter of time. But you're right. Being there, you just feel it. It's different.
Do you know how you go on the highway where someone gets killed? They've got the flowers in there.
Yeah.
Was there anything there for him? Was there any? There was nothing, like no symbols.
Hell no. I mean, this is New York City, and the Hilton doesn't want to have it, have any recognition of that. But yeah, and it's a concrete jungle, right? I mean, there's no place to put it, right? You couldn't just put some flowers there. Someone would steal them or trample them anyway. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
right. On a highway that can happen. It's just the idea of being there. You mentioned the fact that, the house got torn down because they'd have looky-loos and tourists and, people coming by nonstop.
Yeah.
All day, every day. So I get the rationalization of the university, and it fits in line with what you say about Bill Thompson, the prosecutor, the DA. Hey, let's get this house torn down as fast as we can, right? I mean, you just got for the civic, community, for everybody not to have to think about this. Well, it happened. You need it. You need to maybe preserve it. Bill, you've done such a great job, like even introducing this theory. You've talked about how sadistic killers often fantasize. The experts say that they fantasize this long before they act. Is there some evidence in Kohberger or anything he'd done up to that point that shows like he fits the mold in that way as well?
Well, yes. I mean, he searched really sadistic porn sites, and they found those on his computer. Did you ever see the selfie he took the morning of the murder?
Yes.
Where he gives the thumbs up. There's another sign of this, that's what's called like a trophy photo. So in the future, he could relive the experience by looking at that photo. Oh, that was the morning I murdered those 4 people, or those 4 students. So some of those things. And, some of the biggest evidence was like what some people would think is non-evidence. The fact that he turned his phone off en route to the location. That speaks volumes.
And circling in the house.
Yes, but his phone was off.
Right.
En route, he turned it off. And then when he went back, he turned it back on. So, and came back to the scene at 9 o'clock in the morning. What was that? Was he trying to retrieve evidence? Did he realize that he left the knife sheath there? Yeah. Or was it that he just wanted to see like a pyromaniac that sets fires and wants to go back and see the fire department put it out? Was that what he was doing? So there's a lot of psychosexual, sadistic, traits here that the amateur wouldn't see. But, and when Brian Thompson said, "Oh, we asked the FBI if there were," and they said, "Are you kidding me? Why are you lying?" He was lying right there. Like, you asked an FBI profiler and they said, "Oh, he'll never tell you the truth, so don't even bother asking him." That was ridiculous.
You said Brian Thompson, though, but I think that
Bill Thompson.
Bill Thompson, you mean. Brian Thompson was Mangione. I was just correcting that. Yeah, and the DA, he just got the 4 yeses. So there was nothing really about Kohberger admitting anything. I mean, like a Jim Clementine wants to find out. You have to ask questions, but he just didn't want to do a case. He did 3 cases, I guess. And
you mean as far as the plea deal?
He didn't want to really have in Moscow, they didn't want to actually do a trial. He probably didn't want to do a death penalty trial because it takes a lot of time and energy. And like Tom said, he was going to retire. I mean, this takes a lot of effort. And I think he took the easy way out. And we're never going to find out anything about Kohberger.
Right. I mean, I don't blame him for taking the plea. But something, you got 4 aces in your hand. Yeah. As part of taking that plea, you say, we want him to tell us where he put the knife. We want him to tell us why he did this. We want the motive. We want him to tell us if he had ever met any of these students before. We want him to tell us where he put his bloody clothing. We want him to tell us all about his. He could have got that information as part of the plea deal. He got none of it. And I think, is that a necessary thing? We all wanted to hear, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And we'll never.
Yeah, it's almost like you needed a task force at that point instead of one man, the DA who's retiring. He's planning his retirement party, or where to position his ponytail next. He's got that long hair that looked kind of odd. Hey, if you haven't seen Bill Cannon's podcast on YouTube, go there and subscribe. Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. He's close to 100,000 subscribers. Let's help get him there. Phenomenally cranks out so much content. He's seen it all in New York City. So, Bill, the question is, have you seen a sadistic murder case in New York? Ever been part of one?
I have seen cases like this, but I have never had a quadruple murder. That is quite rare. And when you think about it, think of a quadruple murder in a town that doesn't get murders. This was their first murder in 5 years, and it was quadruple. So, there's a lot of times where homicides you will work together with Manhattan Special Victims when it's sexually related, because they have a level of expertise that we perhaps won't have, but put them with us, and it's a very powerful tool of investigative resources.
So you were mentioning, I'm saying his name right, Jim Clementine from Criminal Minds, the profiler.
Clementi.
So Jim Clemente, you were saying that you did an interview with him, correct?
Yes.
He came up with what Kohberger would look like and everything. He got it down.
He came up with exactly Rex Uerman, the Gilgo Beach serial killer.
Oh yeah,
in
Long Island.
Right? Yeah, I remember that.
They caught him, he wrote a profile for the New York Times. And it was exactly who this guy is. He predicted
like the age, how he
size,
looked,
his job, where he would be living, his personality, all of these things. He hit it right on. You could pull it up in the New York Times, but Jim Clementi, Rex Uerman profile. It's incredible. And the FBI profilers don't always hit it on the head. The Beltway sniper, they were so far off, it was laughable. That was Muhammad, remember?
And his son,
kid?
right?
the shooter?
No, a brother or something. Yeah, two
The
younger
son,
guys,
with
right?
in the van.
Yeah, that was like
Well, the older
2002.
guy and a 17-year-old kid was the shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the side of the road like snipers, taking people out.
No, they were hiding in the trunk of the car, and the license plate came down. That's where he shot out of.
Jeez.
That's
Yeah.
why they couldn't find them for so long, because the
It's
shots
just-
were being muffled.
Incredibly crazy. How about BTK killer? Was Jim Clementine part of that?
I don't know if I mean, he knew a lot about it. I don't know if he was part of that
Because-
investigation, but he certainly, like, when he was on our show, he would get pissed if we used Bryan Kohberger's name. He goes, "We'll refer to him as inmate 163214. I don't want to use his name because these people love to get famous
Yeah,
from
they do.
what
those-
they've done,
Bill, those are my Powerball numbers.
He's won 3 times.
I
They're
won.
lucky. They're lucky numbers. Not so
Holy
much
cow.
for Kohberger.
Kohberger.
Kato.
Life in prison.
Hey, you mentioned the fact that Jim didn't want to even mention his name. I get it, right? But I think Kohberger's the guy that obviously loves attention. He thinks he's smarter than everybody. He thinks he's trying to pull off the perfect murder, and he's just a psycho-sadistic killer. But I think he's going to want to talk at some point. I think he's going to want to reveal some of this when it really sets in that he's never getting out of there, right? And he's not. I think maybe to get better treatment, maybe to get moved into a different prison, maybe to get some sort of perks. I'm not sure. There's no way this dude doesn't want the world to know what he did, because I think in his sick, warped mind, he thinks he deserves credit for it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, look, James Patterson already wrote a book on it. So there's enough writers probably already knocking on the door of that prison to interview him. Yeah, at some point, and I believe the same thing with the Gilgo Beach serial killer, Rex Uerman. He hasn't gone to trial yet, but he's going to get convicted, and he's going to be facing, 4,000 years in prison. So perhaps he'll cut some deal to talk, because I think he's killed a lot more people than 7 people. So they may say, look, if you come through with more information, we'll give you a 60-inch TV, we'll give you better food, whatever it is. All they can give him is more spiffs. They can't let him go.
You mentioned about that guy maybe killing more. Do you think Kohberger killed before? And do you think Kohberger was on the path of becoming a serial killer if he didn't get catch? You think that he was developing himself to be this sleuth of a serial killer because of the research they found in his computer, that he thought he could outsmart people, that this killing, had he not been caught, that he would have gone on and killed? With your experience, what do you think?
I think 100% he was going to be a serial killer. I don't think he's killed before, but I think that this was a mass killing. He killed more than 2 people. It makes it a mass killing. And he would have absolutely, he was studying serial killers like they were baseball players, BTK, Ted Bundy was like his idol. Catherine Ramsland, who was the PhD who taught courses, he studied with her. So he was like studying this, like this was going to be his career or something, And that's one of the things I don't like about this case. It's like, for some reason, serial killers have this mystique, like, oh my God, almost like, you expect some woman's going to go there and ask to marry him, those crazy people that go to prisons to meet people,
Well, I guarantee you Kohberger's got his fans. I'm sure he's getting tons of mail.
Oh, absolutely.
These people are nuts. Yeah. It's like Ed Gein, right? Netflix just made a docuseries, 8 parts on a guy that killed 2 people, right? And it's doing very, very well. We covered that topic last week. But yeah, they take on kind of this mythical vibe.
I think it's all because, like your podcast so successful, people love true crime. People love to be a detective. People love the mind of getting into Silence of the Lamb, Academy Award winner. They love that. The crime, people are just fascinated by it, and I think people are fascinated with Kohberger. It's going to go on forever. And the more he doesn't talk, everybody wants to hear him speak, but he probably never will.
One of my favorite parts of that case was the impact statement from Olivia Gonsalves, when the best line on this, when she says, something, she goes, and this is going to bother you the most. If you didn't sneak into that house like a pedophile and murder my sister when she was asleep, she would have kicked your fucking ass. And that was how she ended. And I was like, that was so great. Her whole impact statement was great.
Bill, I've never seen anything as powerful as that, as good, as perfect. Every word was perfect. The way she delivered it was on mark. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was just from a heart.
And I think that's how more people should speak to these killers when they get a chance in court. Just shame and ridicule and just get it all out. I think, back to what we were talking about a second ago, Kohberger thought he was so smart. I think he treats this almost like a freaking football game where he's got a game plan for the next one. He would have moved on to the next one. He would have figured out, maybe it would have been on the East Coast. Maybe it would have been in Florida. He would have figured it out and methodically gone through this and come up with a plan and done it. And, like if you had a chance, what would you want to know? Like, since no one got to find out anything, but just as a curious guy who's been in law enforcement your whole career and has seen so many crimes, what would you want to know from Kohberger if you had a chance to ask him a few questions?
I would really want to know what he did with the weapon. And I think it was very clear that the weapon was that K-bar knife because he ordered it on Amazon. I mean, so how clear could you be? And then when he left the knife sheath there, he tried to order another one, another knife sheath to cover up. So, no, here it is. I didn't leave that there, But it just so happened that the number one identifier on this planet was on the button of the knife sheath, and that was his DNA. And there's still people that they're not satisfied with that. Oh, the police planted it. Oh, blah, blah, And I'm like, a la the O.J. Simpson case. Yeah, the police planted fucking DNA on a button of a knife sheath.
Yeah, especially the Idaho police, right? Like they're ready to go do something that sophisticated and twisted. No way.
Yeah, and you think Kohberger studying serial killing, you got to believe that when he goes back to the house at 9:00, that he's driving and going, "Where's my sheath?" That he's freaking out and he's thinking, that's the one mistake that I made. How it fell out of his pocket, however it did. That's what convicted him. He made the one mistake of his sheath, and that was he went back to go to the house.
You want to know my theory? I think you're right. Yeah. Okay. I think he knew he couldn't find the sheath, obviously, and I think that's why he called his mom and talked to her for so long after. I think he knew maybe, the gig might be up or something. He can't find that. I don't know, but that's just my theory. But a guy like that who thinks he thought of everything and he returns without it, he's freaking out. Don't you think he's panicking at that moment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And something, I mean, I'd like to know a lot of things like, how did you clean up the car? How did you not get blood all over everything? What did you do with the clothes? He had to have blood all over his clothing. So he either wore like a Tyvek suit or something over his clothing that he just discarded and maybe put it in a plastic bag and all the things he wore, and then discarded that and dug a ditch or something like that. But really, the most important thing I would want to know is what'd you do with the knife, And why couldn't Bill Thompson have asked that and made him answer that in court? Why couldn't he have done that? And, when he said, oh, he would just lie, I was like, dude, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? What criminal detectives have a way of getting the truth out of people? And you're going to just go with that answer? He would just lie?
That's pathetic. That's malpractice as a DA almost. I mean, come on. I mean, you owe it to the families. You owe it. You do. You have to find out. Here I have an opinion and a thought and just a belief. And I don't let the parents of killers like this off the hook because you raised him. Okay, now I'm not saying you have to do life in prison, but you haven't seen any signs that this guy could possibly snap in this way. I don't know. I love the fact that in some of these school shootings now, they will hold parents accountable, right? In Michigan, you saw parents get charged and prosecuted. It makes me sick that these parents can't see a few telltale signs and, alert authorities or do something. What's your thought on that? Because you've seen so many crimes.
Well, yeah, our son is mentally ill. Let's buy him an AR-15 for his birthday. It's so unbelievable.
Or not lock the guns in the house or whatever. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, look at Sandy Hook. The mother had like 21 guns, and she knew her son was an absolute nutcase. I mean, he killed her too, but she should have been charged had she lived. Outrageous. Yeah, like you have a mentally ill child, and you have firearms all over your home. That's crazy.
Tommy, bring up Kohberger's parents. Have we ever heard from the parents? Have they made a statement of their son? Because that was where he drove cross country with his dad, and that's what's the conversation? And plus, being pulled over by Indiana Highway Patrol. I mean, did the father and the mother ever say our son has a problem, or was he done it at school that our son's a super intelligent person? No, we never saw the signs of this. Did we ever hear?
No, they haven't spoken like that.
But why haven't we?
I don't know. Maybe they just refuse to talk, or nobody,
They have to be inundated with networks that want to talk to him, to the parents.
Yeah, but look, maybe they would down the road talk for money. It's just like that guy Howard Bloom, who was writing the book as this was happening. That guy just pissed me off because I think he invented a lot of shit too. Because he's coming up with all of these theories. I'm like, you couldn't find a bad guy on Rikers Island, and you're you're here talking all this nonsense. And then the book was coming out as they were approaching the trial. Well, he wrote it for that magazine first.
Well, yeah, he
Airmail, right?
Yeah, Airmail. He used to write for Vanity Fair with Graydon Carter. We've had him on the show a couple times. The first time we had him on the show, he laid out for about 10 minutes his theory about how he thought Kohberger arrived and methodically went through the house. It was pretty chilling. He was pretty convinced, that he was on to something there. He did spend a lot of time there. I mean, he went to Idaho like all the time and was going to be out there for the trial. But so I guess you don't want him? You don't want me to introduce you to him? Get him on your show?
No, something. If you watch my show, I've been very critical of him. So, I mean, no, I wouldn't mind interviewing him.
That'd be a great show. That'd be a great show really for you to have, you guys can debate it. It's sort of.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that writers sometimes, they're good investigators, a lot of them, but they come up with theories not based on experience and not based on having knowledge, law enforcement knowledge, but on more or less sometimes what's more sensational, though.
Sure.
And he was on Katie Kelly like twice a week, for the last year,
Oh yeah, Howard. He's had a great career. He's a great writer, but you got to understand too, Bill. You're approaching something as a detective and a writer, two different motivations, right? And something that sells, and so I get what Howard does, and I think he's a great writer. That would be good though, because I'm sure he wouldn't mind a good debate, right? And you kind of challenging him a little bit. Where did you come up with that theory? Who did you talk to? How did you find this out? How did you piece it together? I think it'd be a fun conversation to listen to.
I would love to. But I can't hide the fact that I was very critical of him. And I had been. I ripped him up a few times.
And maybe he'd be happy to defend himself and talk. I think it'd be great. Anyway, if you want it, I'll introduce you to him.
Yeah, no, I would love to. Yeah. Look, I'm not adverse to getting into it with somebody over.
That would be a really terrific show.
You need Kato there in case sparks fly too much. It gets a little heated.
Yeah.
Kato could be the MC.
Yeah.
Kato, step in there, a couple jokes.
Hey, Kato, I see
you've
been pumping iron, man. Your guns are looking good, man.
Jeez, no, it's my sister's shirt. I'm wearing the orange.
Wear tight shirts.
I'm doing a thing. Halloween is coming up. Every we go back home to Wisconsin, and my grandma does a bobbing for applesauce contest. She has no teeth.
Hey, Bill. Bill. Kato goes back to Halloween every year, and he dresses up as Kato Kaelin.
Yeah. Side note. In the '90s, that was one of the number one costumes, and I judged a contest with the late Tom Sizemore and Juliette Lewis. And I'll never forget that. There were all these Kato impersonators. It's hysterical. No longer though. It's but still,
Bill,
great memory.
Aren't you dying to ask Kato the same thing I am? Kato, put the collar up. Let's go straight 80s. Put the collar up.
Come on,
put it up. Let's see what it looks like.
I'm wearing the orange for the show. It's high energy. Yeah.
Oh man. Hey, Bill, when you talked to Clemente, did you get any idea like how common this type of murder is? How many of these monsters are out there lurking? Or do they have the tendencies and the potential, but most of them just don't carry through with it?
I think, according to the FBI, there's quite a few of them out there across the nation. I don't have a specific number, but the good thing to know now is that it'll be very difficult, not impossible, but difficult to become a serial killer because they can catch you before you reach number 2. And a serial killer, the definition, according to the FBI, is 2 or more with time in between. Like if you Google it, they'll say 3 or more. No, that's Google. They don't know what they're talking about. The FBI made the rules. It's 2 or more, you're a serial killer. So now, with the technology of video cameras, cell phones, and this new thing, IgG, investigative genetic genealogy, unbelievable technology. Look, they used it on the Gilgo Beach case. They used it on the recent case out here where the guy goes back 40 years. And, they build a family tree through DNA and they catch your relatives first. And then they figure out who in your family did this. It's incredible.
Does Clemente, is he a guy like a Will Graham that he's so good that he actually gets you get to that borderline when I'm talking about Will Graham from the Thomas Harris novels, the that it scares him that he has to have that how the serial killer would think, what would the serial killer would be turned on by, and he obviously he's not going to go kill, but it's a fine line that he knows that this guy kills because he's a sadistic psycho and this is how he did it. So he's got to kind of get into the mind of what makes a person do that. And I'm sure in your experience, you've talked to a number of criminals and you go, why would you do that?
Well, Jim Clemente, attended the BAU, the Behavioral Analysis Unit at the FBI, and he was one of the best. And besides that, he's got a law degree. He was a prosecutor before that. He became an FBI agent. Now, I think, he's a writer the head writer for Criminal Minds. Wow. So he's probably seeing it a little differently now, but he has all that law enforcement experience. And his other buddy, Bobby Chacon, who's a talking head on all the TV stations. He's another great guy. I became friends with him. And his brother and his dad were both NYPD sergeants. In fact, last year, his brother, who he was so tight with, died in a motorcycle accident. He was devastated by it. Oh. But so those two guys I got to know, and Bobby Chacon, I got to, it's funny. Some of the people I have on my show I've never met them, and I've known them for 5 or 6 years, and I've never met them. I've met them here, but never in person. Right. But Bobby Chacon, I met in person. So,
but like a guy like a Clemente, what do they do? Do they go do they look at their childhood, which I think is the motivating factor for anybody that becomes a criminal, of how they're raised, if they had alcoholic parents or beating in that? That's got to be one of the number one things to see a killer, what their childhood is like, where their brain is developing, and what sticks in their brain, and what makes a person will kill.
Well, Kato, there's cliche things about serial killers, like, oh, he was killing animals when he was a kid. You always hear that, right? Oh, he was a bedwetter, But they're not all like consistent. But if you had to write a profile on the Gilgo Beach serial killer, there's certain things we could all say, well, he has to have a car, right? He has to have a car that's a pretty good car because he doesn't want to break down, because if you get transporting one of the bodies and it breaks down, he's in big trouble. So that means if he has a good car, he must have a pretty good job. And because he's dumping all these bodies along this ocean, he must live pretty damn close to it. So he must own a home, and then you go into all of these things and they predict them. And, if he owns a home near Gilgo Beach, he must have a pretty good job because it's expensive to live around there. So he must be so they come up with all these things through their training and through studying the crime and what certain things mean, and how were these women killed and why were they all sex workers, right? He was targeting sex workers, and he was targeting women of a specific size. You know why? This 6'6" asshole weighing 280 pounds didn't want a big, powerful woman giving him a problem. Can you believe that?
I didn't know he was that big. Wow.
Yeah, he was 6'6", anywhere from 250 to 300, they said. He looks more than 250. He looks like he's at least 280 pounds.
I was going to say, he was caught because he was showing he had a condo or something on the beach that was empty with furniture, and the woman was the one that escaped, and someone came to
got caught really because he had this weird car, a Chevy Avalanche, and it was in the case folder for 12 years. And it was like a green color. And he went to a sex worker's house, Amber Costello, and her pimp saw the car, and he came in and they did a rip on him. They ripped him off. He already paid her. And he came out and was like, get out, and so they ripped off his money. So that was in the case folder. He had seen this 6'6", he described him as an ogre. And for 12 years, the Gilgo Beach detectives never found out who owned that car. They put the Gilgo Beach task force together. 2 months after it, they identified the car and they identified Rex Uelman.
Wow, all this stuff is so fascinating. It really is. And then,
I love this stuff.
But as much as AI is probably going to help law enforcement, I'm sure it will, you still need boots on the ground. You still need instincts. You still need experience, hunch, gut feeling that these great detectives had. Clemente, what's going on in his mind if he's a lead writer for Criminal Minds? I remember my daughter's 19. About 5 or 6 years ago, she told me how she loved the show Criminal Minds, and I'd never seen it before. Network TV, how bad can it be? I watched it. That thing's intense. And I said, you're done watching Criminal Minds. You don't need that in your, in your head every day. But that's an intense show. And then to have him on the show, and then you had that forensic psychologist, had to be fascinating. What else? What did you walk away with after hearing from her? Two experts, two different fields, talking about the same case. What really stuck with you?
Well, what stuck with me was early on they said he was an incel, and I had never, in all my years in homicide, I had never heard that term before. And it stands for involuntarily celibate. So which makes a male extremely frustrating. So that also doubles down. He's an incel. This was all about sex. One of these girls dissed him. That's a New York street term for disrespect. I know I didn't have to explain that to you guys, but in case somebody in the audience doesn't know. One of those girls dissed him, I think.
Yeah.
And he was enraged. And they can't say that happened, like they're saying, but what it really drives me crazy when I hear detectives or Bill Thompson say there was actually absolutely no connection between him and no targeting of these people. I think he's full of shit. So he was just driving around saying, 1122 King Road. Let me go in there and kill people. Are you kidding me? He had reconned that place 23 times. Mm-hmm. So when they say that, they are lying. They are lying to us.
Wow.
So
23 times.
Are they lying out of incompetence or lying to protect the public? What do you think it is?
I think they're lying to protect the University of Idaho and the community, because the community took a huge hit, probably financially, over these killings.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you think they also have proof that, that he had met one of these girls and been dissed, that possibly there is a story of at a restaurant or something. And even being dissed, though, it really has to... who doesn't get rejected in that? It really had to affect him, because who cares about being dissed by a girl if it happened maybe more than once?
But he's a powder keg, Kato. I mean, that's just, you add another element to it, and it's another ingredient that I
was thinking that more along the lines of this guy has just been dissed by many, and it was like his turn just to say, you know what, this isn't going to happen anymore. I'm going to kill. So. I don't know, and I don't know. We won't know, but 23 times going around encasing the house, so he must have known something.
Yeah,
or that type that he wanted.
That Kaelin Gonsalves was being stalked by someone for at least 2 to 3 weeks before this occurred.
It was him.
So
who else could it be? It was him. He was at that vegan restaurant. It was him. I don't know.
Well, Jim Clemente also said a lot of these serial killers that are psychosexual, sadistic, a lot of times while they're doing this, they have a huge erection.
Oh my
while
God.
they're killing people.
Even more disturbing. Sick. God, you can't even make this up. You said incel. That's a involuntarily celibate, right?
Celibate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that by choice, or is it because they can't get women?
I think that one.
Well, because of their awkwardness, because of the way they relate to women, the fact that maybe they don't have a good rap. Maybe you ever used to say that to people, dude. You gotta have a better rap.
Yeah, you gotta have a better.
You don't know how to talk to women, right?
No one's ever told that to Kato. I don't think.
No.
I don't think he's ever heard those words. He walks into a room, I'm Kato Kaelin, that's all it takes. We're going to talk about somebody that wasn't an incel, Luigi Mangione, in just a second. We're hearing new evidence about him at, with prostitutes in Japan and all this stuff. I'm going to get to him to this second, but I want to shift gears for 2 minutes, and I want to ask you and you, Bill, a question. And I want you to be honest with me and think about it. So I have a group of friends that I'm with a lot, and we get together. It's a very festive area where I live, Manhattan Beach, California. And these are intelligent, educated people that are, get around, they're experienced, they're accomplished people. One of these friends of mine is convinced that O.J. Simpson did not commit the murders by himself. Okay, I don't want to get into it right now. Someday maybe I will, and we'll explore this. But do you think there's any shred of a chance that he had help or that he didn't do it? I'm just curious. What do you think, Kato?
My opinion is that after having Tom Lang on the show and having it being the most investigated case in the history of cases in California and maybe everywhere with over 250 people working on it, I'd say it was OJ. Now, did OJ have something afterward where discarding things? Possible, but when Skip Junis on our show said he saw him discarding the stuff into a garbage can at the airport with his arm all the way down past his elbow, I just think that was just something done by OJ and OJ alone.
And I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just saying, and I don't even know what I believe.
This is my opinion.
I always thought it was just OJ, and I still do. But I am going to explore this because it involves some very, very high profile, famous people that have a different opinion. So when I'm ready to do this, I will. What about you, Bill?
I think that he acted alone, and I think that he did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. Part of me says OJ would never take the fall for anybody. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As narcissistic and sociopathic as he apparently was, that's not what they do, right? They're not going to risk going to prison for life for somebody else.
And some of the stuff that we know that was never brought into evidence that we found through Detective Lang and Vanetter and just the first interview, the tape of how they play to him, as you know, they play to his ego of, we love football, and get him to start talking, and how he can't explain the cut on his finger, and It became three different things, three different ways, from golf to a broken glass. It's just like this, he can't, the easiest thing they always say is to just tell the truth. But when you say a lie, it gets more and more convoluted.
No, he definitely was there. I mean, that cut on the finger is all you need to know, right? And everything else. This is fascinating, to be determined, or to be continued.
Well, if I can just say one thing, I always felt that the interview with Lang and Vanetter was the biggest mistake of the entire case. They should have never let him walk out of that room, ever, without handcuffs on. They had him. He didn't ask for a lawyer. He was willing to talk. They should have kept him there for 12, 14 hours, and they would have had enough to lock him up, but they let him walk out. That was cardinal sin number one. And I know they were both really experienced detectives. Why would you let him go? I think maybe they were intimidated by his celebrity.
Oh, I thought that Howard Weitzman came down, though. That's what if I remember, it was Howard Weitzman that came down and got him out. That he said, "Don't talk anymore." During the interview,
was Howard Weitzman his attorney?
Yeah,
at that time he was a short time lawyer, but he was known in L.A. as the celebrity lawyer who would get everybody out. So he was. Then it went on to Shapiro and Cochran.
I wasn't aware that happened. If the attorney,
he came down to Parker Center.
Yeah, and Bill, we can vouch for Tom Lang. He would not get intimidated by a celebrity. And the other thing too is it's so easy to Monday morning quarterback everything about that case, right? Because it was so complex, and there were so many variables, and just it was the strangest thing, and a confluence of so many like just bizarre things that'll never happen again.
And Bill, you mentioned also crimes of passion, that Kohberger would use the knife and over even when the body's passed, of just stabbing because it was passionate, and what he had done to Nicole. And, I believe my opinion is also to Ron, but with Nicole, of almost decapitating her and taking out the breast, from her breast jab. It's hard to talk about, but that's also is a thing that points to guilt, rage and passion of.
Well, enough of these horrific conversations.
I want to hear about what it was like for you to go to New York, and because this is your hometown, Bill, to go on a street that my opinion about this, Louis, I can't believe people love this guy, that women are like this. He murdered a father from behind, shot him in the back in cold blood. Yeah. It's so disgusting that should be a death penalty case.
And it was funny because I sent you the photo when I was there, and I was there for 2 days this week. Really a fast trip. I didn't sleep much, had a lot going on, but I was sitting in the Hilton having lunch. Okay, so that little restaurant that opens up for lunch in there, and it has a view of the side door, and it was an aha. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was staying at the hotel across the street, didn't even put two and two together, and then I'm sitting there and I look over and I go, "That's the side entrance. That's the sidewalk." So it really was kind of a chilling, crazy thing to think one of the biggest crime stories of the last 10 years happened right there. And you just know how busy it is in that area all the time. He ambushed him in the morning, but you could see, I knew exactly where he did it.
All on tape too. We watched it on TV happen. We saw it on our phones. And it just blew me away that when I saw how people took his side, Luigi's side. Yeah. It's personally disgusting. It's got to disgust you, being in law enforcement, that he's a cold-blooded killer.
Well, I think he's got like $1.5 million in his defense fund, all given by the public.
And plus, there's lawyers that will happily take that case. You know what I mean?
For publicity.
For the fame, for
But
the notoriety, for
he has
potential
one
new
of the
business.
top lawyers. He has Karen Friedman Agnifilo. She was the second in charge of the Manhattan DA's office a couple of years ago.
Well,
and her husband is her partner.
He's facing federal and state charges. So,
Yes.
right, he's going to get double teamed. The feds generally don't lose.
You know, the Manhattan DA who has the case, his name is Joel Seidemann, and I've had lots of cases. He's been there for 40 years. The guy is a pit bull prosecutor. And I think he's probably a better prosecutor than they are defense attorneys. So they got a big problem at the state level.
What is their defense? It's on video. That's what I don't understand. What is the defense of that? He's mad that the guy was an insurance company and for higher rates or whatever, he shoots him. What is your defense in a case like that?
I think you keep him off death row, right? I mean, that would be the
I
priority.
think their defense is going to be, it's not him. Do you see his face? That's what's going to be his defense.
Yeah, but they also found him in Altoona, Pennsylvania 5 or 6 days later with that gun. And
With
when
all
it-
the property.
forensics match, you know? Hello?
Yeah,
Is that going to be televised?
probably
I
not
don't
New York
know.
because P. Diddy
I'm a
wasn't.
little confused as to why they need to charge it at the state and the federal level. And then they're also talking about charging him in Pennsylvania, which is really a joke because if they get 2 murder convictions, why would they even charge him for what they have him for in Pennsylvania?
I think
which
he's
is
also
gun
facing
possession.
charges from the Hilton Hotel Corporation. I mean, they're all going after him.
Yeah,
Bad publicity.
I'm a lot like you, Bill. I'm all for capital punishment as long as it's not too severe. I'm kidding.
Hey, can I tell you guys which case I'm most fascinated by right now? Mark Sanchez.
Oh, God.
I mean,
Is that New York also, right?
no, that was Indianapolis.
Okay, that's right. He's running. Okay,
and
got
by
it.
the way, the judge recused herself, and they have a new judge that said it's going to be televised, and the trial starts December 11th if Sanchez is healed up. And I know Mark. I know him.
Yeah.
And I find this so utterly hard to believe. You know what else? And you guys work with me on this. This story is just insane. Number one, right? About doing wind sprints. Clearly he was under the influence of something, right? And then the dispute with the truck driver, the grease truck driver, and then the parking spot and this and that. And it turns into where he's cut through his cheek with a knife where it hit his tongue.
And he's deaf.
Right. Well, so they always talk about how, he started spraying with mace. He feared for his life. And then he stabbed Sanchez. But they never talk about, did Sanchez get the knife from him after being stabbed and hit him with it? Because I've never in one story heard exactly how it happened. Have you, Bill?
I haven't. No, I think it's because the media is sympathetic to Sanchez, and that's probably why they're not reporting those facts.
And there's cameras everywhere. There's got to be video.
Well, there's video of him running down the street, and then
Right.
after he's stabbed, I mean,
He's
you can see his
yeah.
T-shirt all bloody.
Yeah.
And then he's pounding on the window of the bar.
Tom, another thing they never said, what bar was he drinking in before this happened? Because the bar he went into, they didn't know him. They didn't recognize him. So I had to take it that's not where he was drinking.
Maybe.
Where was he drinking
Maybe in the
before?
hotel
No
bar
one
because
said that.
yeah, exactly. This is all stuff that has to come out because they had just closed too, and he's pounding on the door or the window, and they see him and they let him in. I think and then they get him help. They call 911. But man, that when you first heard that story and you're thinking he was just randomly attacked, and then when you peel it back and you learn all this
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. I was like, oh my God, they attacked Mark Sanchez. And then you find out that he might be the guy that's guilty of all this. But that story is when everything comes out. Can you imagine that was was it on a Saturday?
It was a Saturday night before the game.
He's in how they replace him immediately, and
No, it was a Friday night. He got there I think it was Friday night with the game on Sunday. Hey, were you a Jets or a Giants fan?
I'm a
He's a
Jets
Jets.
fan.
Okay.
so yeah, we talked about that.
He was a good coach. 2 AFC championships.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah. All right. So I'll be anxious to see if that one is televised. That one, we'll do some live streaming during that. Okay, quickly. Anything new with Mangione? They dropped the terrorist plot or the terrorist charges and things like that. But I mean, when's that trial going to start?
Just the New York Times came up with just about 2 days ago about a 5 or 6 page investigation about what he did in the months prior to the shooting, and he took a vacation in Thailand. And he was, he's getting all Zen and all kinds of shit. And he met a couple of Americans there. And Banfield, of course, had one of the American, I think his name was Christian Sacchini, who was a professional soccer player. And he spoke to her about what they spoke about. Apparently, he was obsessed with Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. And he was also obsessed with Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, and he was, I don't know what, here's a child of privilege. His family owns like 10 or 12 nursing homes. They own golf courses. They own restaurants. I'm just like, he was killing the very people that he is. You know what I mean?
So did we find out the connection in him with Brian? You said he was with Ted Kaczynski and Brian Thompson. What was the connection? Why was he fascinated?
Well, it was United Healthcare. He was obsessed with the fact that United Healthcare would turn down people's health, their claims for operations, this, that, or the other thing. And he was so enraged by that.
Yeah. Like he was the face of corporate greed. Yeah.
I thought he may have been radicalized, but there was no evidence of that.
The other thing, when he was on that trip to Thailand, didn't he get his ass kicked by like 7 prostitutes?
Yeah, 7. What they call them, lady
Nancy
boy.
Yeah,
like that.
Nancy boy, lady boy.
And then the other thing too, he was in Japan on that trip, and he tried to pay for a prostitute with Pokemon cards. That's another thing that just came out as well.
With a Yakuza boss.
Yeah.
That didn't work out.
All right,
we got lots of cases coming up, though. We want hopefully Bill can come and join us. I pray you, because I love having you on the show. Every time I watch your podcast, I don't know why I start craving pizza. Here we go.
No doubt.
I love watching your show.
Well,
all right. Well, Bill, this was great. This was fantastic. We'll have you on again. I mean, I think the Sanchez,
I'd love to.
The Sanchez trial will be great.
Pollination.
And then with Manjo, we should, if you're ever out in LA, man, we'll bring you right here in the studio. Get you right in here, okay? We'll take you out, show you some crime scenes around here. We know them all. We've been to them all. We've toured them all, Bill. We see them all, don't we?
Yeah.
Including the Cecil Hotel.
Oh, when Tom and I, some of our favorite shows is we actually go to the sites of crime, and people love it. We're pretty much, in LA, you got the TMZ trucks, you've got a Hollywood celebrity, all the tours. Our tours are just the two of us, and we hit the dangerous spots, and people love that in our show. They just love taking it. So if you ever come here, we'll take that tour and have Tom drive. You'll probably give him a ticket.
That'll be the scariest part of it.
He's not a good driver.
Not that bad. Yeah. I mean, you telling me you don't download PDF files while you're driving? I mean, what's wrong with you? All right. Hey, Bill, we'll let you get back to what you're doing. Thank you so much. Hey, we're going to promote it again. Bill Cannon, his podcast is fantastic. Hey, by the way, how close to 100,000 subscribers are you?
I'm at 94.4 something.
But you're going to have that arrow before you know it. Get into Bill's card. It's called Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Bill Cannon, storied career, NYPD. Man, it's just so much fun to talk to you. I just love when we have the detectives that have done it.
Watch the show, because your guests, honestly, you get that New York feel. It's just great. And all your guests are fantastic. And great energy with Bill, and love laughing with you, man.
Kato, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm very flattered by you guys.
Well, thanks so much, Bill. We love you. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon, and you and I will chat a little bit after we're done here. Just keep your computer rolling here as we record.
You can go to the bathroom, Bill, but you keep your computer on, and we're going to start talking about you now. But it's all positive. He's great.
He's the best. All right. So our membership, if you haven't subscribed to one of our memberships, we have 3 tiers. One will fit you. Oh my God. Wait till you see what Kato delivered for members. It's only for members. I'm doing something today that's going to be super cool, only for members. All right. And wait till you see some of the future stuff we're going to be doing with live streams. You get your podcast early before everybody else. We're going to do bonus episodes for you. We're going to do commentary on episodes. We're going to bring in special guests for it. So check out our membership. Sign up for one. You'll love it, and you'll get tons of value from it.
And keep the comments coming. We love the comments.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, great job on what you provided our members. Let's not say anything. You got to be a member to see it. But man, that was freaking amazing.
I did it in the clutch.
Yep.
And I've got someone that's staying with me right now.
Wait, time out. Someone's staying at your house?
Yeah.
Have you ever done that?
I've done that before, yes. When someone starts crashing on your couch, you know you made it. There you go. Yeah.
Anyone we need to know? Or just is that
well,
it?
if anybody likes, if people like pranksters, the original guy who started all the pranks is Tom Mabe, and Tom Mabe is some of his videos have hit 1 billion. So he is. We shot some stuff, and I'm going to shoot something later today. But it's just gone. It's just lots of laughs. As you can tell by my voice, I stayed up, and I was up
Pretty late.
Yeah,
All right.
at least 3 a.m. or so.
You know, that's a special talent.
But working.
The pranking, I mean, that's a unique talent. That's a unique gift.
Yeah.
He does it where nobody gets hurt, and it's just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. You know, and he's got the huge following. Bieber loves his stuff. Jennifer Lawrence, he's from Kentucky, and she's a Kentucky girl, but friends with a lot of celebrities. They love his stuff, but our show is on fire.
It is, Kato. All right, 2 episodes this week, and we're going to keep that flow going too. So,
and I want to thank Bill again for helping us out with other connections that he's was just so kind and benevolent to just help us out with stuff. And we're gonna research that stuff and get even a larger audience.
Yep. And then
he's going to hit 100,000. We're going to hit 100,000 very soon.
Yep, we are very close. And yeah, for that, I'm going to hook him up with Howard Bloom, and I want to watch that. I want to referee it. That'd be great.
That's a great show.
All right, hey, thanks everybody. Zeus, great job. Bill Cannon, thank you. K-Train, you're the man.
You're the best.
Okay, great seeing you. Make sure you follow us on social media. Follow our posts on our YouTube channel. Good stuff there all the time. And grab one of the memberships if you haven't. For the one and only Kato, K-Train, Kaelin. I am
Snails.
Tom Zenner Scandal. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and we will see you very, very, very soon.